Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila, you're at my book nook, and today I have a very special and exciting announcement about, drumroll please, the Museum Society Book Club in 2026. Now, a few housekeeping things. We are no longer on Discord. I still have the Museum Society thing up. I haven't deleted anything, and frankly, I don't think I will. If anyone still wants to join, y'all can do your thing. I might pop in once in a while, but it is not going to be where I make all the announcements. Where I will make all the announcements is the Instagram channel called Museum Society. It's just linked on my profile. So if you go to my page, you'll see like join Museum Society or something like that. And that is where I'll be keeping you updated with all the stuff that I'm reading, with all my YouTube stuff. Right now, I am the only one who is able to post anything. So that's one thing. Sorry, I just want to make sure that I don't, like, my hair looks fine. Please tell me it looks fine. And stuff like that. If it becomes a little bigger, if people are becoming more active, I'm open to either opening up said group chat or switching to something like Fable. I'm a little iffy on Fable, but I would switch onto there if it means that it will be an easier place to host a book club. So yeah, with that being said, let me get into the general housekeeping things about the 2026 book club. So that was the general overall book club stuff. Now this is specifically the 2026 book club. As usual, this video will be talking about the first 6 months of the year and the picks for that. In the past 2-ish years that I've been running this book club, I have sort of pitched it as a very relaxed book club. Because it is. You can read the book of for January in April. You can read it in December. Okay? You can read the December book in, the year after, right? Like, it depends. You can read the books whenever you want, but for those that do like to make monthly TBRs, for those that do like monthly structures and a little bit more structure in terms of their reading, I personally cannot do TBRs for the life of me, which is why you do not see a single TBR video on my channel. And so that's why I still have books for each month, but I do not expect you to follow it to a T. So with that being said, the biggest changes, there are 2 big changes for the 2026 edition of the Museum Society Book Club. So the first big change is that we are going to be reading a new fantasy-ish release. It just ended up that all of them are new fantasy releases and fantasy-adjacent releases. The reason I say ish is because I think one of them is like a space opera, but she's actually originally a fantasy writer. Like the main series that she has right now is an urban fantasy series. If you know who I'm talking about, you won't be surprised at the book. But what I'm trying to say is that they are all new releases because I do want to try and put some emphasis on new releases, as well as we are going to be reading one classic alongside said new release. That way, if the release isn't your jam, if it's not your preferred genres or subgenres or tropes or age category, whatever the reason is, you can have a classic to fall back on. Those are the sort of first big thing, right? That's sort of combined. The second big thing is that we're also going to do nonfiction. Now, nonfiction, I'm going to explain a little bit later. I will put a timestamps in the description box if you want to skip to that. That will work a little differently than the usual book club stuff. So the nonfiction is a little separate, and I will have all the stuff on my Instagram. I will have all the stuff on the Storygraph once it hits January. I think I might release the challenge on maybe like December 28th or something like that, just a few days ahead, so you can double check and you can find these books and whatever you need to do. So I will talk about the nonfiction bit a little bit after, but let's just get into the first 6 months of the year. So since it's 2 books per month, it is going to be 12 books. And as I said, one is going to be a fantasy, new release-ish relatively, and the other is going to be a classic. And both of the books that I chose, I thought it would be interesting. I thought the cover was cool. I thought the description was cool, etc., etc., etc. We will get to it. When we get to it, I will explain my sort of thought process. We don't have a lot of information about like the second half of the year, so please be on the lookout for a video announcing the second half of the year in about May, June, I want to say. And I will likely start collecting books in early May in order for me to post a video in time so that you guys have enough time to source the books, whether it's from the library or buying or finding it at secondhand bookstores or indie bookstores or pre-ordering it and the like. So I just want you guys to all be prepared. So the first book we have is actually out at this very moment. It was published in November. And it is The Wolf and His King by Finn Longman. This is an adult fantasy. And the description says, Bisclavret is to live his life in exile, to take a wolf's shape involuntarily, to lie to everybody he meets. And yet, he has always dreamed of knighthood, of brotherhood, and belonging. When the old king dies unexpectedly, Bisclavret travels to the royal court to seek its rightful inheritance and swear fealty to the new king. It's here that he discovers the mysterious young warrior now wearing the crown is willing to offer him far more than just his father's lands. And suddenly, the life that seemed like an impossible fantasy is catapulted within his grasp. But how can someone who is hardly a man ever truly be a knight? The king has recently returned to court from an exile of his own to inherit a crown he never wanted, and yet he's fascinated by the newest knight, a man who carries secrets along with his sword, and fascination quickly turns to longing. When Bisclavret is seemingly killed by a wolf, the weight of the king's grief almost destroys him. He swears to have his vengeance, but at the height of the hunt, he encounters an animal that seems too intelligent to be the violent beast he seeks. One might even say it has the mind of a man. So, this is like medieval-esque. I think it's a retelling of a specific tale. Storygraph doesn't tell me this, but I do believe the Goodreads description has the specific tale or the specific century that it references. So, very excited for that. As far as the classic we have for January, let me just double check that this is in the correct order. We have Notre-Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo, otherwise known as The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And if you're wondering, why are you making funny sounds? It is because I speak French and I can't say Notre Dame. Notre Dame? Notre Dame? How do you even say it in English? So I do have to say it in the original French because I'm a stickler like that. And that's how my brain functions. So this is my Penguin edition of Notre Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo. I do not like any of the covers, except the one with the cathedral on it. That one's a really nice cover. But I do love myself a good Penguin classic because they have introductions and they just have so much in it, in such, I guess, an aesthetic. It's an aesthetic of its own. It's an aesthetic of its own. And I got this, I believe I got this secondhand, because if you look at this, the newer ones actually have a thicker white band and the penguin is different. Let me show you what I mean. Is that a spoiler? I think that's a spoiler. Hold on a second. Let me show you what I mean. It pisses me off. Hold on. You see? Do you see this? Do you see this? This is an abomination. It is an abomination. Great book. Abomination. Anyways, that's my little rant about the quality of the Penguin Classics books nowadays, because I guarantee you that even if I annotate this and put it through the ringer, this will hold out more than this will. Anyways, so we are reading The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Notre Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo, and I shall read you the synopsis. In the vaulted Gothic towers of Notre Dame lives Quasimodo, the hunchback bell ringer. Fun fact, I've never actually watched a Disney movie either, so that might be interesting to do. Maybe if I ever figure out how to do like a live show or something, we can watch The Hunchback of Notre Dame, like the Disney version. Mocked and shunned for his appearance, he's pitied only by Esmeralda, a beautiful dancer. I'm not going to say the word, because that is a slur nowadays, to whom he becomes completely devoted. Esmeralda, however, has also attracted the attention of the sinister Archdeacon Claude Froyo, and like the yogurt Froyo, anyways, And when she rejects his lecherous approaches, Furio hatches a plot to destroy her, which only Quasimodo can prevent. Victor Hugo's sensational, evocative novel brings life to the medieval Paris he loved and mourns its passing in one of the greatest historical romances of the 19th century, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Then we have February. Luckily, February, with it being the shortest month of the year, we do have fairly short books as well as far as the classic one goes, so don't worry, I got you guys. We have Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. This is the author of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and there's another one that I remember reading ages ago, and then it was only as I read Emily Wilde that I realized that I actually read from Heather Fawcett before. She's Canadian. This is set in 1920s Montreal. Or sorry, 1920s Montreal. I gotta listen. When you spend over a decade tirelessly learning your third language that is really difficult in general, you will take every opportunity to show off the fact that you sound like a native speaker. So, a native Canadian speaker, native Canadian French speaker, okay? Not French, not France French, not Belgian French, not, whatever, but I sound Quebecois. So I've been told. I'm gonna grab a drink of water because I'm really thirsty. Ugh. Please go grab a snack and a drink. We're gonna be here a while. She has a husband? Sorry, this doesn't have this isn't on the Goodreads thing. What? Okay, sorry. I'm so shocked. I didn't know she has a husband. Granted, I haven't started reading the arc yet, but I have an e-arc, so haha, suckers. Do I have to lock my doors? Anyways, here is the description. All strays are welcome here. Agnes Aubert is very fond of making lists. These lists kept her afloat when she lost her husband 2 years ago. And now, as a founder of a cat rescue charity, her meticulous organization skills feel like the only thing standing between her beloved cats, His Majesty, Banshee, and the sweet elderly Taureau, to name a few, an utter disaster. But when Agnes is forced to move the charity, she soon discovers that her new shop is being used as a front. Right under her feet is the lair of the decidedly disorganized, not to mention self-absorbed and infuriatingly handsome Havelock Renard. Renard actually means fox, so fun facts. Ha! Ha ha ha! Havelock is everything Agnes doesn't want in her life: chaos, mischief, and a little too much adventure. But as she gets to know him, she discovers he's more than the dark magician of legend. And though she may be ready for a little intrigue, perhaps even romance. After all, second chances aren't just for rescue cats. I feel like that gives you nothing. Anyways, something from Renard's past comes up, like an evil guy comes back and Agnes's shelter is in danger, and so she has to team up with Renard and save the shelter, and yay. Knowing them, they're gonna fall in love. For February, we have as our classic, only gonna read it a year and a month later, North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. This was recommended to me by my good friend Helen, so shout out to her. And this was recommended because I loved Pride and Prejudice, and she loves this one, and she thought I would also enjoy it. And also the BBC miniseries stars the actor whose name I've forgotten who plays... What's his face? Oh my god. Thorin. He plays Thorin. Am I a fake Tolkien fan? Am I fake? Does this mean I'm a fake Tolkien fan because I couldn't remember Thorin's name? Anyways, we've got North and South. This is also fairly short. This is my Penguin Classic edition. I do like the cover of this. It's very juxtapositional, so to speak. So there's two people here and like cows, so it's like farm, and then you have like the industrial sort of in the back. So very excited for this. I'm going to redo the synopsis on the back. When her father leaves the church in a crisis of conscience, Margaret Hale is uprooted from her comfortable home in Hampshire to move with her family to the north of England. Initially repulsed by the ugliness of her new surroundings in the industrial town of Milton, Margaret becomes aware of the poverty and suffering of the local mill workers and develops a passionate sense of social justice. This is intensified by her tempestuous relationship with the mill owner and self-made man, John Thornton, as their fierce opposition over his treatment of his employees masks a deeper attraction. In North and South, Elizabeth Gaskell skillfully fused individual feeling with social concern, and in Margaret Hale created one of the most original heroines of Victorian literature. North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. Then we have, for March, The Library of Amorlin by Kaylin Josephson. I'm hoping that I am pronouncing the title correctly, but anyway, so let me get through this. I believe this is also adult, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes it's really hard to tell. It seems like it's an adult fantasy book. It doesn't say why otherwise. Anyways, I specifically tried to pick adult fantasy, not YA fantasy, because I know not everyone enjoys reading YA fantasy. Sorry, I have something in my ear. Okay, so here is the synopsis for The Library of Amorlin. Former con artist Kasira expected to spend her life as a soldier, miserably working off her prison sentence by hunting down magical creatures for the fanatical kingdom of Kalphos. But when the Kalish ambassador arrives with a non-negotiable assignment, Kasira finds herself swept into the biggest con of her life, infiltrating the Library of Amorlin. I love when you're infiltrating not like this, like, dungeon or something, or this prison, but it's a library. I love this concept. I work at a library, just a heads up. As the heart of all magic and the protector of magical creatures throughout the Six Kingdoms, the library is historically politically neutral. Kasira is meant to pose as the new assistant to spy for the ambassador and destabilize the library from the inside, clearing the way to dethrone its librarian. I love this. Oh my god, I'm so excited to read this. But when she arrives, Kasira learns that the library is not all she was told it would be. Neither is the prickly, handsome librarian, Alistair, whose own monstrous secrets are about to catch up with him. Swept into the enchanting world of the library, Kasira's reluctant con is jeopardized by her growing affection for the wondrous life the library promises, and by her complicated, burgeoning attraction to Alistair. As the ambassador's game closes in, Kasira must decide where her loyalties lie, to her newfound home or to her own survival. That is our March book. And our March classic is Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. And this is one of 3 Russian classics, I believe. And don't worry, I'll try to find more more diverse classics, but I do want to say that I want them to be classics that are in Penguins. I don't have a specific set of criteria for classics, but I do want them to be renowned classics. Not modern classics, but renowned classics. Anyways, Master and Margarita, I have this funky, spunky cover, which I absolutely love. I remember distinctly going to the secondhand bookstore. I got this at Seeker's Books in Toronto. Shout out Patrick and your cat Churchill. Y'all are great. And I saw this on the shelf and I took it and I brought it to the cash. And Patrick looked at me. He's like, I knew that was not going to last there. He's like, I knew you were coming. So that is Mikhail Bulgakov's Master and Margarita. Let me read you the description off of here because this one is not very good. I don't think. Yeah. One hot spring, the devil arrives in Moscow, accompanied by a retinue that includes a beautiful naked witch and an immense talking black cat with a fondness of chess and vodka. The visitors quickly wreak havoc in a city that refuses to believe in either God or Satan, but they also bring peace to 2 unhappy Muscovites. One is the master, a writer pilloried for daring to write a novel about Christ and Pontius Pilate, and the other is Margarita, who loves the master so deeply that she's willing to literally go to hell for him. What ensues is a novel of inexhaustible of inexhaustible energy, humor, and philosophical depth. I feel like that gives you more than this one does. So, because it doesn't even mention Margarita in this. Okay, anyways. This is the Picador version. It says this is a fully annotated translation. Does it even have, I don't think it has like an introduction or anything. No, there's a translator's note, but that's mainly for like translation. This way that. There is no, oh, there's an afterword and commentary. Oh, there's commentary. This is fantastic. Oh, wow, look at that. Oh, this is fantastic. This is great. There's like comments for everything in like every chapter. That's awesome. Biographical note, Bulgakov of the Magician, and it's like an afterword. This is great. I had no idea. Master and Margarita. Next we have, what month are we on? I forget what month we're on. February, March. Hey, April! We have Graceless Heart by Isabel Ibanez. And this is, I believe, also adult. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I believe this is also adult. I'm not too sure if it is. Editing Mila will take care of that. So, in 15th century Volterra, sculptress Ravenna Maffei enters a competition hosted by a secretive immortal family who offer an invaluable boon to the victor. Desperate to win so she can save her brother, Ravenna reveals a rare magical talent, a dangerous act in a city where magic is forbidden. Her revelation makes her a target, and she's kidnapped by the Luni family, taken to Florence, a city of breathtaking beauty and cutthroat ambition. There, Ravenna is forced into an impossible task where failure means certain death at the hands of Santorino dei Luni, the family's enigmatic and merciless heir. But under his cold reserve hides a vulnerability that draws her closer than she ever intended. Meanwhile, Ravenna's forbidden magic does not go unnoticed. The Pope, waging war against Florence, the Medici, and magic itself, has his own interest in her ability, seeing her as a potential weapon in his ruthless campaign. As alliances shift and war brews on the horizon, Ravenna must navigate the treacherous line between survival and betrayal, between love and duty. With time running out and her every move watched, the choices she makes will determine the fate of not just her own life, but the fragile balance of magic and power that can unravel Florence itself. That is Graceless Heart. And the classic that we are reading is a chonker. It is Fyodor Dostoevsky, The Brothers Karamazov. Yeah, it's a chonker. I'm gonna tell you like right now. It is a chonker. Let me read you the synopsis. The murder of brutal landowner Fyodor Karamazov changes the lives of his sons irrevocably. Mitya, the sensualist, whose bitter rivalry with his father immediately places him under suspicion for parricide. Ivan, the intellectual, driven to break down. The spiritual Alyosha, who tries to heal the family's rifts, and the shadowy figure of their illegitimate half-brother Smirdakov. Dostoevsky's dark masterwork evokes a world where the lines between innocence and corruption, good and evil, blur, and everyone's faith in humanity is tested. The Brothers Karamazov. This is a chunker. It's almost, oh my god, it's almost, I'm gonna die. It is like, it's 985 pages. Good lord. Actually, I got through the Count of Monte Cristo in a month. But also this is Dostoevsky and I'm kind of, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. So that is that for May, my birthday month, which is very exciting. We have Daughter of Crows by Mark Lawrence. This, I believe, is very dark, so I do want to make sure that, if possible, I will add if they are available, I will add the trigger warnings and the content warnings onto the screen. If not, I will add them to the description down below. Just a heads up. Please let me know if you know of any trigger warnings, because I believe this is a very dark one. Also, it has, is there like a maiden mother crow thing? Interesting. Okay. Let me read what we have here. The Academy's halls run with blood. The few that survive its decade-long nightmare have been forged on the sands of the Wound Garden. They have learned ancient secrets amid the necrotic fumes of the Bone Garden. They leave its gates as avatars of vengeance bound to uphold the oldest of laws. The Academy of Kindness exists to create agents of retribution, cast in the image of the Furies, known as the Kindly Ones, against whom even the gods hesitate to stand. Each year, 100 girls are sold to the Academy. 10 years later, only 3 will emerge, because there are 3 kindly fates. Only the most desperate would sell their child to the kindnesses, but Rue, she sold herself. And now, a lifetime later, a long and bloody lifetime later, just as she has discovered peace, war has been brought to an old woman's doorstep. Whoo! Set a thief to catch a thief. Set a monster to punish monsters. That was a mistake. Ooh! Okay, Mark Lawrence! Let's go! Woohoo! Where is my copy of the Three Musketeers? Oh, it's right here. Speaking of the Three Musketeers, so the classic that we have for May is a little bit of another chunker, but it doesn't seem too bad. And Alexandre Dumas isn't particularly, I don't want to say depressing, but he's not particularly depressing, unlike Dostoevsky. But we have the Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. I have this cool, I believe it says Barnes and Noble Classics edition. I believe on Goodreads it has like a slightly different tinge. So I got this at a secondhand bookstore. Let me read you the synopsis. Mixing a bit of 17th century French history with a great deal of invention, Alexandre Dumas tells the tale of young D'Artagnan and his musketeer comrades Porthos, Athos, and Aramis. Together they fight to foil the schemes of the brilliant, dangerous Cardinal Richelieu, who pretends to support the king while plotting to advance his own power. Bursting with swirling swordplay, swooning romance, and unforgettable figures, such as the seductively beautiful but deadly femme fatale Milady, and D'Artagnan's equally beautiful love, Madame Bonacieux, the Three Musketeers continues, after a century and a half of continuous publication, to define the genre of swashbuckling romance and historical adventure. I'm also really excited to, after this one, read the rest of the series, because I believe it's called the D'Artagnan Romances, and there's other books in this series that continue the adventures of D'Artagnan. So, also, my brother had a friend named D'Artagnan. Straight up had a friend named D'Artagnan. It was great, honestly. Yeah, that's that. And lastly, we have June. For June's book club pick for the fiction fantasy release, we have, this is the space opera one. We have The Last Contract of Isako, by Fonda Lee. Very excited for this. To serve is to live is to die. Isako is a legendary swordswoman, but every legend must come to an end. When her longtime client unexpectedly retires, she plans to follow, to walk out into the frozen wasteland of their planet with her head held high and her family enriched by her death. When she is offered a final mission she can't refuse, especially when she realizes who lies at the center of it all, Martin, her last and worst apprentice, who somehow made his way to the top. As she's thrust into a world of corporate espionage and shadowy secrets, what she uncovers could forever change humanity's existence among the stars. So this is epic science fiction, it's like dystopian, all that stuff, and it is a standalone, thank goodness, because I cannot take any more I cannot take any more series. I believe the only ones that are not standalones, I'm going to say this right now, are The Library of Amorlin and Daughter of Crows. And for the book club pick, we have Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Now, I did start reading this. Shut up. Oh no. No. That's okay. Tape can fix it. We have Anna Karenina. I have a bookmark. I did start this when I was this at my cousin's place. She bought it for me. I really like this edition. This is the only edition of like Anna Karenina that I like, except there's this one really pretty edition that I really like. I'm gonna put it on the screen. I don't know where I could get it from, but that would be really nice. I don't like do I like the penguin? I don't know. It just looked, I don't know why they're, yeah. I don't like any of the other editions besides this one. So this is a pretty decent edition. I'm just trying to make sure that you can see the cover. Anna Karenina. So let me read you the, oh my goodness, why are these descriptions so awful? Literally, they're so bad. Okay, I think this might be better. Set against a luxurious and urbane backdrop of 19th century Russia, Anna Karenina is the story of the titular Anna, wife of a prestigious government official, and Count Alexei Vronsky, a handsome young cavalry officer, and the lives thrown out of orbit by their passionate love affair. Called perfection by Fyodor Dostoevsky and the greatest novel by William Faulkner, Anna Karenina remains a literary masterpiece. I do want the Penguin Classics version purely because the introductions and sort of the notes sometimes that they have in the back are very, very good and very interesting to read. But this will do because I love this edition so much. So that is Anna Karenina. So that is it for the general part of the book club picks, and we will continue on after a bit of a break, which you will not be able to know about. You will not know about because editing stuff, and we will talk about the non-fiction books. I will see you in a moment. Hello, I cannot tell you if this is any drastically different from literally like 15 minutes ago. I had to do some things on the technological side, aka put all the videos that I had on my phone on a USB stick, so I had to transfer all that. And that took a while, and hopefully my phone doesn't die while I am filming this. I shouldn't run out of storage if I don't talk for too long, but oh well. So this is the part where I tell you about the nonfiction books that we're going to be reading in 2026. So what I did initially was I wanted to do like one book each quarter, but I thought, nah, that's not me. That's too easy. Too easy for you and me. Too easy. We are all intellectuals here, okay? So it's too easy to read one nonfiction book per quarter. So what we're going to do is I have 2 books per quarter plus a bonus book. And what will that bonus book get you? A, knowledge. B, you might discover something new, which leads us back to A, which is knowledge. C, you will be incredibly well read because not only were you reading fiction books, but you also read a classic that month, or you read 3 classics for the quarter. And D, you will have my love and affection, I guess. I will be very proud of you. Okay? There's that. So, as I said, unlike the books for the sort of how I separated by the first 6 months and then the last 6 months, these nonfiction books are all out at the moment. So I went ahead and I chose 2 books per quarter and then an extra book for each quarter. And on the Story Graph Challenge, I have marked the bonus books as bonus books, meaning you do not have to read them in order to complete the challenge. If you read just the first 2 books for each quarter, you will have completed the challenge for said quarter, right? So whatever you like. If you read all 3 books, fantastic. I'm going to clap ahead of time for you, okay? With that being said, we are going to go with, obviously, all 4 quarters. I'm not going to split it in any way. So we are going to talk about from January to December of 2026, which is why am I thinking of December 2026? Why am I thinking of December 2026? December 2025 hasn't even ended, and I'm thinking about December 2026. Anyways, can you tell I drank my tea? So much energy now. So the first book I have for the first quarter, which is January to March, which is quarter 1, is Penelope's Bones, A New History of Homer's Woman Through the Woman Written Out of It by Emily Hauser. This is 496 pages as a hardcover. It was published in 2025. I have, drumroll please, a finished copy and an ARC. Haha. Thank you, University of Chicago, for pulling through that. I did not expect it. I also didn't expect a finished copy. Yeah. Anyways, very excited to read this. let me give you the synopsis. In Penelope's Bones, award-winning classicist and historian. Why does it say classicist and historian? Classicist is a historian. Anyways, Emily Hauser pieces together compelling evidence from archaeological excavations and scientific discoveries to unearth the richly textured lives of women in Bronze Age Greece, the era of Homer's heroes. Here, for the first time, we came to understand the everyday lives and experiences of the real women who stand behind the legends of Helen, Briseis, Cassandra, Aphrodite, Circe, Athena, Hera, Calypso, and Penelope. In this captivating journey through Homer's world, Hauser explains era-defining discoveries such as the excavation of Troy and the decipherment of linear bead tablets that uncover thousands of captive women and their children. Most recent finds like the tomb of the Griffin warrior Pylos, whose tomb context challenged traditional gender attributes. DNA evidence showing that groups of warriors buried near the Black Sea with their weapons and steeds were, in fact, Amazon-like female fighters. Put a pin in that. Put a pin in the Amazon specifically. A prehistoric dye workshop on Crete that casts fresh light on women's work of dyeing, spinning, and weaving textiles, and a superbly preserved shipwreck off the coast of Turkey whose contents tell of the economic and diplomatic network crisscrossing the Bronze Age Mediterranean. Achilles, Agamemnon, Odysseus, Hector. The lives of these and many other men in the greatest epics of ancient Greece have been poured over endlessly in the past 3 millennia. But these are not just tales about heroic men. There are scores of women as well, complex, fascinating women whose stories have gone unexplored for far too long. A central reading for fans of Madeline Miller or Natalie Haynes, this riveting new history reveals the woman of the Bronze Age Aegean as never before, offering a groundbreaking reassessment of the ancient world. I'm so excited to read this. Oh my goodness. So excited. Okay, next we have, still in quarter 1, we have Red Thread on Mazes and Labyrinths by Charlotte Higgins. This is 224 pages in the hardcover version. I'm not sure how much it is in the paperback. I do have the paperback version. And it's relatively, do I have it somewhere? I don't know where I have it at the moment. I do not. There it is. Ta-da! So it's relatively small, and you could probably read this in just like a couple of sittings, to be honest. Let me just tell you. So as far as the book itself goes, it's 265, and then there's just a couple of extra stuff at the end. So there's that. So let me read you the description. The tale of how the hero Theseus killed the Minotaur, finding his way out of the labyrinth using Ariadne's ball of thread, is one of the most intriguing, suggestive, and persistent of all myths. In the labyrinth, the beautiful, confounding, and terrifying building created for the half-man, half-bull monster is one of the foundational symbols of human ingenuity and artistry. Charlotte Higgins, author of the Bailey Gifford shortlisted Under Another Sky, tracks the origins of the story of the labyrinth in the poems of Homer, Catullus, Virgil, and Ovid, and with them builds an ingenious edifice of her own. She follows the idea of the labyrinth through the Cretan excavations of Sir Arthur Evans, the mysterious turf labyrinths of Northern Europe, the church labyrinths of medieval French cathedrals, and the hedge mazes of Renaissance gardens. Along the way, she traces the labyrinthine ideas of writers from Dante and Borges to George Eliot and Conan Doyle, and of artists from Titian and Velázquez to Picasso and Eva Hesse. Her intricately constructed narrative asks what it is to be lost, what it is to find one's way, and what it is to travel the confusing and circuitous path of a lived life. Red Thread is, above all, a winding and unpredictable route through the byways of the author's imagination. One that leads the reader on a strange and intriguing journey full of unexpected connections and surprising pleasures. So that is our second book. Oh my god, my lips are so dry. And I need to drink more water. Okay, so next we have the bonus book for the first quarter. We have The Epic Woman of Homer, Exploring Women's Roles in the Iliad and Odyssey by Irene S. Allen, who is a dear friend of mine. She's on Instagram. She's great. It says it's 224 pages in hardcover. I haven't been able to get my hands on a copy because it's not being published actively in Canada, and it's very expensive to get it from the US, so I haven't really tried. And I cannot find an ebook version at the moment, so I might have to ask the publisher, be like, hey, please. Our earliest written sources for Greek mythology, Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, feature women prominently as drivers of the narratives. Though they occupy a variety of roles and speak eloquently for themselves in every role, these women have been obscured by the assumption that each epic's central hero, Achilles and Odysseus, respectively, is also its singular hero, and yet the story of the Iliad is not the story of Achilles, just as the story of the Odyssey is not the story of Odysseus alone. Contrary to centuries of reception, the epics are not only about fearless yet flawed men, but rather explore and develop the contours of belonging and community in times of war and peace. The epic woman of Homer untangles the woman of the Iliad and the Odyssey from centuries of narrative constraints to recover their essential meaning and importance. In the process, the epic woman of Homer challenges the commonplace assumption that the Homeric hero is an individual who fights for personal glory, a misconception further fueled by the lack of understanding of the oral tradition out of which Homer's epics emerge and which linguistic and thematic patterning exists at every level. Analyzing Homer's goddesses and heroes through the lens of these patterns, their recurrence and variation reveal them to be preeminent in a wide range of skills, all of which are necessary, and yet the essence of each is in their relationship with others. The epic woman of Homer reestablishes these goddesses and heroines their esteemed positions in ancient Greece and reintroduces them to the modern world. So I like how this one, I'm just really realizing it, ties in with Penelope's bones, and red thread sort of ties in with the two of them because it's also ancient Greece related. So we move on to the second quarter, which is April to June. And again, I have 2 books and then I have a bonus book for you. So our first book is going off the ancient Greece stuff. Helen of Troy, Goddess, Princess, Whore by Bethany Hughes. I don't want to be yelled at by YouTube. So this is by Bethany Hughes. I haven't been able to snag a copy, but I'm hoping to one day. So, let me read you the synopsis. For 3,000 years, the woman known as Helen of Troy has been both the ideal symbol of beauty and a reminder of the terrible power beauty can wield. In her search for the identity behind this mythic figure, acclaimed historian Bethany Hughes used Homer's account of Helen's life to frame her own investigations. Tracing the cultural impact that Helen has had on both the ancient world and Western civilization, Hughes explores Helen's role and representations in literature and in art throughout the ages. This is a masterly work of historical inquiry about one of the world's most famous women. That wasn't much of a description, but I think that gives you enough to pique your curiosity. The second book we have is Persians by Lloyd Llewellyn-Jones. Persians, The Age of the Great Kings, which I actually have 2 copies of. I have a hardcover and then I have a paperback. So we're not going to talk about it. Okay. The Achaemenid Persian kings ruled over the largest empire of antiquity, stretching from Libya to the steppes of Asia and from Ethiopia to Pakistan. From the palace city of Persepolis, Cyrus the Great, Darius, Xerxes, and their heirs reigned supreme for centuries until the conquests of Alexander of Macedon brought the empire to a swift and unexpected end in the late 330s BC. In Persians, historian Lloyd Llewellyn-Jones tells the epic story of this dynasty and the world it ruled. Drawing on Iranian inscriptions, cuneiform tablets, or in archaeology, he shows how the Achaemenid Persian Empire was the world's first superpower, one built, despite its imperial ambition, on cooperation and tolerance. This is a definitive history of the Achaemenid dynasty and its legacies in modern-day Iran, a book that completely reshapes our understanding of the ancient world. Then we have the bonus book is The Silk Road, A New History by Valerie Hansen. So this isn't the one by Peter something, I believe it was, but this is another Silk Road book. The Silk Road is as iconic in world history as the Colossus of Rhodes or the Suez Canal. But what was it exactly? It conjures up a hazy image of a caravan of camels laden with silk on a dusty desert track, reaching from China to Rome. The reality was different and far more interesting, as revealed in this new history. In The Silk Road, Valerie Hansen describes the remarkable archaeological finds that revolutionize our understanding of these trade routes. For centuries, key records remained hidden, sometimes deliberately buried by bureaucrats for safekeeping, but the sands of the Taklamakan Desert have revealed fascinating material, sometimes preserved by illiterate locals who recycled official documents to make insoles for shoes or garments for the dead. Hansen explores 7 oases along the road from Xi'an to Samarkand, where merchants, envoys, pilgrims, and travelers mixed in cosmopolitan communities, tolerant of religions from Buddhism to Zoroastrianism. There was no single continuous road, but a chain of markets that traded between East and West. China and the Roman Empire had very little direct trade. China's main partners were the people of modern-day Iran, whose tombs in China reveal much about their Zoroastrian beliefs. Silk was not the most important good on the road. Paper, invented in China before Julius Caesar was born, had a bigger impact in Europe, while metal, spices, and glass were just as important as silk. Perhaps most significant of all was the road's transmission of ideas, technologies, and artistic motifs. The Silk Road is a fascinating story of archaeological discovery, cultural transmission, and the intricate chains across Central Asia and China. I'm really excited for this one because I'm hoping that it does focus on Central Asia and also talks about Tajikistan as well. I'm always looking for books that focus on Tajikistan because there aren't many in English that do, and most of them focus on the other stands, usually Kazakhstan because it's one of the bigger ones, or Afghanistan because, well, it just tends to be well known for a variety of reasons. We move into quarter 3, which is July to September. And again, I've got 2 books for you and a bonus book. The first book we have is The Amazon. That's why I told you to put a pin in that Amazon description. Lives and Legends of Warrior Women Across the Ancient World by Adrienne Mayer. I do have the hardcover of it. I went looking high and low, and then I found this in a secondhand bookstore, which was insane. And it is 536 pages in the hardcover. Amazons, fierce warrior women dwelling on the fringes of the known world, were the mythic arch-enemies of the ancient Greeks. Heracles and Achilles displayed their valor in duels with the Amazon queens, and the Athenians reveled in their victory over a powerful Amazon army. In historical times, Cyrus of Persia, Alexander the Great, and the Roman general Pompey tangled with Amazons. But just who are these bold barbarian archers on horseback who glorified in fighting, hunting, and sexual freedom? Were Amazons real? In this deeply researched, wide-ranging, and lavishly illustrated book, National Book Award finalist Adrienne Mayer presents the Amazons as they have never been seen before. This is the first comprehensive account of warrior women in myth and history across the ancient world, from the Mediterranean Sea to the Great Wall of China. Mayer tells how amazing new archaeological discoveries of battle-scarred female skeletons buried with their weapons prove that women warriors were not merely figments of the Greek imagination. Combining classical myth and art, nomad traditions, and scientific archaeology, she reveals intimate, surprising details and original insights about the lives and legends of the women known as Amazons. Provocatively arguing that a timeless search for a balance between the sexes explains the allure of the Amazon, Mayer reminds us that there were as many Amazon love stories as there were war stories. The Greeks were not the only people enchanted by Amazon. Mayer shows that warlike women of nomadic cultures inspired exciting tales in ancient Egypt, Persia, India, Central Asia, and China. Driven by a detective's curiosity, Mayer unearths long-buried evidence and 6 facts from fiction to show how flesh and blood women of the Eurasian steppes were mythologized as Amazon, the equals of men. The result is likely to become a classic. So, very stoked for that because it mentions Central Asia. Duh. Then we have one more with Bettany Hughes. Thank you, girlfriend, for literally carrying the nonfiction choices. And that is The 7 Wonders of the Ancient World, which I have propped up here because I don't have space. I have this cover. There's another cover that I don't know if I like this one particularly, but it's a pretty dope cover. So, let me read you the synopsis. For millennia, the 7 wonders of the ancient world have been known for their aesthetic sublimity, ingenious engineering, and sheer audacious magnitude. The Great Pyramid of Giza, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Temple of Artemis, the statue of Zeus, the mausoleum of Halicarnassus, the Colossus of Rhodes, and the lighthouse at Alexandria. Echoing down time, each of these persists in our imagination as an emblem of the glory of antiquity, but beneath the familiar images is a surprising revelatory history. Guiding us through it is historian Bettany Hughes, who has traveled to each of the sites to uncover the latest archaeological discoveries and bring these monuments and the distinct cultures that built them back to breathtaking life. Spellbinding, richly illustrated, and full of insight, The Seven Wonders of the Ancient World is a thrilling journey into the indomitable ambition and creativity of the human spirit. So this isn't particularly long. It's fairly small. So again, few sittings, 5 maybe sittings. So that will be fairly easy to get through. And lastly, we have our bonus book for quarter 3, and that is The Science of Middle-earth, A New Understanding of Tolkien and His World. This is one that I saw at Barnes & Noble's, I think, when I was with my cousin, and I just took a picture of it. And yeah, so let me redo the very long synopsis. The surprising and illuminating look at how Tolkien's love of science and natural history shaped the creation of his Middle-earth, from its flora and fauna to its landscape. The world J.R.R. Tolkien created is one of the most beloved in all of literature, and continues to capture hearts and imaginations around the world. From Oxford to Comic-Con, Middle-earth is analyzed and interpreted through a multitude of perspectives. But one essential facet of Tolkien and his Middle-earth has been overlooked: science. This great writer, creator of worlds, an unforgettable character, and inventor of language, was also a scientific autodidact with an innate interest and grasp of botany, paleontologist, and geologist, with additional passions for archaeology and chemistry. Tolkien was an acute observer of flora and fauna and mined the minds of his scientific friends about ocean currents and volcanoes. It is these layers of science that give his imaginary universe and the creatures and characters that inhabit it such concreteness. Within this gorgeously illustrated edition, a range of scientists, from astrophysicists to physicians, botanists, to volcanologists, explore Tolkien's novels, poems, and letters to reveal their fascinating scientific roots. A rewarding combination of literary exploration and scientific discovery, The Science of Middle-earth reveals the hidden meaning of the ring's corruption, why hobbits have big feet, the origins of the dwarves, the animals which inspired the dragons, and even whether or not an end is possible. Enhanced by superb original drawings, this transportive work will delight both Tolkien fans and science lovers, and inspire us to view both Middle-earth and our own world with fresh eyes. So this is a bit of a sort of sidetrack to all the ancient history stuff. I just thought it sounded like a really interesting book, and I hadn't really heard anyone really talk about it. And so now we've got into Q4, which is October to December 2026. That is insanity. So we have Lost Enlightenment, Central Asia's Golden Age from the Arab Conquest to Tamerlane by S. Frederick Starr. I just found this on Zlib, not gonna lie. So it just looked really cool, and the cover is cool. So I think I might ask this for like Christmas or something like that. In this sweeping and richly illustrated history, S. Frederick Starr tells the fascinating but largely unknown story of Central Asia's medieval Enlightenment through the eventful lives and astonishing accomplishments of its greatest minds, remarkable figures who built a bridge to the modern world. Because nearly all of these figures wrote in Arabic, they were long assumed to have been Arabs. In fact, they were from Central Asia, drawn from the Persianate and Turkic peoples of a region that today extends from Kazakhstan southward through Afghanistan, and from the easternmost province of Iran through Xinjiang, China. Lost Enlightenment recounts how between the years 800 and 1200, Central Asia led the world in trade and economic development, the size and sophistication of its cities, the refinement of its arts, and above all, the advancement of knowledge in many fields. Central Asians achieved signal breakthroughs in astronomy, mathematics, geology, medicine, chemistry, music, social science, philosophy, and theology, among other subjects. They gave algebra its name, calculated the Earth's diameter with unprecedented precision, wrote the books that later defined European medicine, and penned some of the world's greatest poetry. One scholar working in Afghanistan even predicted the existence of North and South America 5 centuries before Columbus. Rarely in history has a more impressive group of polymaths appeared at one place in time. No wonder that their writings influenced European culture from the time of St. Thomas Aquinas down to the scientific revolution, and had a similarly deep impact in India and much of Asia. That's it. That's it. That was a very, wow. I'm so thirsty. That was a very long description. Good lord. Okay, our second book is Thebes, the Forgotten City of Ancient Greece by Paul Cartledge. Among the extensive writing available about the history of ancient Greece, there is precious little about the city-state of Thebes. At one point, the most powerful city in ancient Greece, Thebes has long been overshadowed by its better-known rivals, Athens and Sparta. In Thebes, the forgotten city of ancient Greece, acclaimed classicist and historian Paul Cartledge brings the city vividly to life and argues that it is central to our understanding of the ancient Greeks' achievements, whether politically or culturally, and thus to the wider politico-cultural traditions of Western Europe, the Americas, and indeed the world. From its role as an ancient political power to its destruction at the hands of Alexander the Great as punishment for a failed revolt, to its eventual restoration by Alexander's successor, Cartledge deftly chronicles the rise and fall of the ancient city. He recounts the history with deep clarity and mastery for the subject and makes clear both the differences and the interconnections between Thebes of myth and the Thebes of history. Written in clear prose and illustrated with images and two-color inserts, Thebes is a gripping read for students of ancient history and those looking to experience the real city behind the myths of Cadmus, Hercules, and Oedipus. And our last bonus book for 2026 is The Cleopatras, Forgotten Queens of Egypt by Lloyd Wellen-Jones once more. One of history's most iconic figures, Cleopatra is rightly remembered as a clever and charismatic ruler, but few today realize that she was the last in a long line of Egyptian queens who bore that name. In The Cleopatras, historian Lloyd Wellen-Jones tells the dramatic story of these 7 incomparable women, vividly recapturing the lost world of Hellenistic Egypt and tracing the kingdom's final centuries before its fall to Rome. The Cleopatras were Greek-speaking descendants of Ptolemy, the general who conquered Egypt alongside Alexander the Great. They were closely related as mothers, daughters, sisters, half-sisters, and nieces. Don't think about it too much. Each wielded absolute power, easily overshadowing their husbands or sons, and all proved to be shrewd and capable leaders. Styling themselves as goddess queens, the Cleopatras ruled through the canny deployment of arcane rituals, opulent spectacles, and unparalleled wealth. They navigated political turmoil and court intrigues, led armies into battle, and commanded fleets of ships, and ruthlessly dispatched their dynastic rivals. The Cleopatras is a fascinating and richly textured biography of 7 extraordinary women, restoring these queens to their deserved place among history's greatest rulers. Whew! Oh my god. Wow, that was a long one. Holy cow. Wow. I cannot believe I managed to do that before I fully lost sunlight. Honestly, this is going to be hell to edit, but woohoo! I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you will join me in 2026 in reading all these books. I hope we will have fantastic conversations. Please feel free to tag me in your posts about these books, in your TBRs, in your videos, in your articles, whatever, relating to the Museum Society Book Club. By the time you will see this, I believe the Instagram post will be up, if I'm not mistaken, as well as potentially a Substack post. I don't know. That's going to take me a while. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're curious as to what we read in the past years, please, I will link it down below. And I will try and find the links. I think I might make like a page on like Canva just so I don't have to copy and paste links. And then that way you can find a specific like links for these books that might also be affiliate links. That kind of thing. That way I don't have to copy and paste and use up the 500 characters or whatever. However much, 5,000 characters, however much we have in the description box. So I'll just maybe make like a Canva page or I'll just post the Substack link as well and you can find the books there. I'll figure out something so you will be able to get these books. I hope you're interested in any of these. I hope I made it at least a little bit of an interesting, and I hope that you will join me in battling brain rot together. As you know, brain rot was a 2025 word of the year or whatever, which is concerning. Was it the 2025 word or 2024 word? I don't remember. 2024 is in a distant memory at this point. It is in a distant past, alas. Anyways, so I hope you once again enjoyed. I know this was a long one. I apologize. We had a lot to get through. I promise that the next videos, both in 2025 and 2026, will not be as long as far as sit-down videos go. But let me know which ones you are most excited about. As I said, everything will be down below, and I will see you in the next one, and I hope you join. It would warm my heart greatly if you would join me in reading these books. And I will see you in the next one. Happy reading, friends!